This is Silent Slayer, Vault of the Vampire, a puzzle horror game where you must dispatch the deadly undead as they sleep in their coffins, though that's much harder than it sounds. This releases for the Quest 2 and Up headsets for $20 US, and for this review, we checked the game out on the Quest 3. It's a suspense puzzle game unlike any other from the makers of one of the best VR puzzle series, and I Expect You to Die, so the odds are good that this should be something special. Well, let's find out, shall we? Hello Vampire Hunters! Before we get to it, if you enjoyed this video, hitting that like button really helps us out, subscribing keeps you up to date on our content, and while you're at it, leave a comment with your thoughts on this release. I'm Ryan for the VR Grid, now let's do this. So I'm not gonna lie, I was totally going to pass on this as the idea of a stationary VR puzzler really didn't excite me too much despite Shell Games being the developer. However, with summer coming soon and the game release is slowing down, I decided, what the heck, gave it a play, and I'm happy I did. For such a small game, there's a decent amount of story in this, told almost entirely by a talking book that not only explains what's going on, but how to slay each of the 9 vampires resting in a large castle. But to quickly summarize it, you're a vampire hunter, and you found some vampires. Enough said. The opening stage teaches you the basics needed to bypass the many defenses that prevent you from an easy kill, with the first being to reassemble a busted stone statue that contains the runes needed to remove the spells protecting the coffin. I struggled more than I thought I would on these puzzles, though once I finally matched 2 pieces, the rest typically fell into place rather fast. Think puzzling places, but with busted rocks, and the further you get, the more pieces you'll have to deal with. With that out of the way, you'll be teleported to your next target and must go through a series of simple and complex tasks that get steadily more challenging with each successful kill. When you're in front of the coffin is where the game truly begins. The talking book will also be floating above the table to your right, there to help guide you as new tools are introduced or to deride your efforts should you screw up. The first step is to get the coffin open, which could be sealed by sliding bars, nails, key puzzles, or something more supernatural, with the main goal being to make as little noise as possible. Smaller sounds will let you know not to move much faster, but should you accidentally make too loud a commotion, your screen will go bloody red, your heart will pump, and any more loud noises or accidental slips will spell your doom as the vampire awakens and attacks you, resetting any progress you had made on that particular Nosferatu. That is the core gameplay element, as no matter what obstacles the game throws your way, silence is key, so rushing any particular task could spell your doom, and playing through these same puzzles honestly drove me nuts, though this is admittedly my fault, as I was trying to dispose of the undead as fast as possible, causing some rushed mistakes. This is a stationary affair, with the only way to adjust your in-game position beyond moving in the real world is to grab an optional bar on the edge of the table near you and drag yourself to your desired position. Getting into the coffin is half the battle, but once opened, there will be even more barriers ahead of you that include locating the vampire's heart. Yep, they can move them. Cutting tripwires, using your stake to write runes in the air to break protective magic, and many more tasks that make every stage just a little more challenging. Should you remove all the traps in your way, locate the heart, and successfully pin the vampire with those runes, an oh so satisfying plunge of your stake into its heart puts an end to that fanged horror before you. It's addicting in its simplicity, and a little frustrating during the latter half of this 3 to 4 hour game, as it becomes much less forgiving and adds some more surreal challenges that will almost assuredly spell your doom on at least your first attempt on any given stage. With that said, if you knew exactly what to do and never messed up, each stage minus the rune building would probably take like 10 minutes or less, but much of the fun really isn't just screwing up once or twice and learning how to not only be quiet, but doing things as fast as you can. I don't think there's an actual time limit, but it seems like when I took my time, the book didn't like that and implied I should be moving faster, but I'm pretty sure this is just artificial motivation. The later stages consistently up the challenge and build upon your previous lessons, making for an overall game loop that is satisfying with every successful stabbing. Visually, there's not a whole lot going on, with each of the vampire's coffins being tucked away in different locations in the castle. In no way does it look bad. It's just simple in design, with everything having a slightly cartoonish look, not unlike the Expect You to Die series, but instead of spy stuff, it's gothic vampires, and what it lacks in flair, it makes up for in polish. Each coffin looks fairly similar, with the traps adorning it making each look unique. The vamps themselves are much more distinct, with each looking typically macabre, with many having additional backstories that match your surroundings, like portraits on the walls or hanging metal prison cells that hammer home that you are doing right by dispatching these monsters. Creatures may get a little too close, with bats flying overhead or spiders moving around, which are just there to make you flinch and possibly screw up, turning this into a lighthearted comedy horror affair. For those looking for more mixed reality fun, there is a pass-through mode in the options menu that removes everything but the coffin, table, and book. It's fine enough, I suppose, but removing the backgrounds really hurt immersion for myself, so while it's here, it's nothing special. Ambience is the name of the game when it comes to the audio side of things, as outside of the book chatting you up, it's all about not making noise, and you will make what seems like a ton of noise. Metal brackets scrape, keys will squeal, pulling nails may squeak, and if you drop something, you're in for trouble. Should you make too much noise or screw up in some other fashion, not only will you see red, but some intense music will chime in to help heighten your anxiety, with some more dramatic music and audio cues kicking in to keep the tension high. Spatial audio is here, but for the most part is irrelevant thanks to nearly everything happening in front of you, making for an overall complete and satisfying package when it comes to audio. I quite enjoyed my time with Slayin, and while it can be occasionally frustrating thanks to those later, less forgiving stages and more complex rune puzzles, what's here still a great use of the medium, especially considering that it's a stationary affair. It's a bite-sized environmental puzzler, and one that would work great sharing with friends for a good time and a cheap thrill, and well worth the asking price. Oh, and if you are afraid of spiders, you can toggle them on or off in the options menu, which I thought was hilarious. I'm going to give Slayin, Vault of the Vampire, a 7 out of 10. Surprise, surprise, it's fun to kill vampires. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to do all the YouTube things to help us out, and that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching.